ChatGPT is being dethroned as the most popular AI platform. The new contender is Anthropic's chatbot Claude, and it's quickly gaining ground against OpenAI, holding the top spot right now in Apple's App Store's top downloads. The company also managed to draw the ire of U.S. President Donald Trump and the Pentagon. For a closer look this morning at Claude is tech analyst Carmi Levy. Carmi, good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
As recently as a month or two ago, a lot of people I don't think would have recognized the name Anthropic. Now it is all over the headlines following that very public spat with the Pentagon. Remind everybody what happened.
Yeah, so Anthropic company has been around since 2021, founded by former OpenAI employees who were concerned about the safety of AI. And so they were negotiating with the Pentagon. They've been a preferred supplier of AI tools to the Pentagon, the Department of War, for a number of years. And they were negotiating terms. And so the Pentagon was pushing to allow their AI tools to be allowed for the use in fully autonomous weapons, basically remove humans from the kill chain, and also to be used in mass surveillance. Anthropic pushed back on that. The Pentagon essentially said, okay, we're not going to be using you anymore, and we're going to call you a supply chain risk, so you won't be able to sell anywhere else into government. And so what they've done now is they've brought OpenAI in to replace Anthropic as their kind of main tool. But it sort of touched off this debate over AI's use in military applications, and quite frankly, how far is too far.
Yeah, and it set off sort of this public perception that OpenAI doesn't care about human involvement, but Claude does. How do the features, I mean, that's a very simplified version, but that sort of seems to be the gut reaction of most people. How do the features of Claude compare to ChatGPT?
Claude is generally, it's called a safer AI tool, so it's more cautious, less likely to go off the rails, more transparent if it does. It doesn't just try to make excuses or confabulate to cover up the fact that it doesn't get it. It actually explains what's going on. It was designed right from the start using a policy called constitutional AI. It's constantly measuring its answers against a constitution, a predefined list of what is moral and what is ethical. So, knowledge workers, coders, they tend to really like Claude because it's better at those applications. It doesn't really do multimodal, doesn't really do image generation, video generation, voice cloning like ChatGPT does. So it's less consumer focused, more if you're a real expert and you appreciate a model that is exceptionally good, more human-like and safer, Claude is your tool.
This feud with the Pentagon and then the blackballing of Claude is shedding light on how different AI companies are positioning themselves, both technologically and ethically. We were just talking about that. The platforms are venturing into more sensitive sectors like defense, which is what we're talking about now. How do we know how this technology could be used or is being used in conflicts like Iran?
I think that's the scary thing, is that we really don't know. In fact, we heard after this dust-up with the Pentagon over Claude's use that war planners actually still managed to use the technology in their planning for this current conflict. They also used it when the U.S. bombed Iran last year. And so we know that it's being used. We know that it's being used to identify targets. We know that it's being used to assess battle damage afterward. We know that it's being used to kind of decide which targets are, most viable and sort of essentially run the math of military before you actually execute. What we don't know is precisely how that's being used. In other words, we can't look over the shoulder of military planners. There's a lot of room for them to be using it in ways that may be concerning morally and ethically and legally. And unfortunately, this is essentially a black box for all of us. More transparency is needed.
Yeah, and to open up this argument, in fairness, we don't often have that kind of insight into how the military is using technology. They've used technology like this for a couple of decades now, whether it's through algorithms on weather or land surfaces. But the AI approach of sort of giving more of the onus of the responsibility over to AI and taking humans out of it, that seems to be the bigger ethical concern this time around. Quickly before I let you go, generative AI, it's starting to get crowded. You've got Gemini, Grok, DeepSeek. What do the rise of these platforms, combined with the pressure from governments around how they can be used, how they should be used, tell us about the competitive landscape in the AI sector?
The push for competition to be more competitive, in fact, might encourage many of these companies to behave in ways that are less ethical. In fact, Anthropic just updated its terms of use to dial back some of the protections that it has in place for ethical AI to make it more likely to be used in scenarios that you and I would probably call problematic. So that's kind of the risk here, is these companies, they want to do the right thing, but at the same time, they have to survive, they have to grow, they have to be profitable, they have to beat the competition. And so there's this push-pull right now in the industry, and unfortunately, it seems competition could very well be pulling into the lead.
Yeah, government contracts, defense contracts are huge, and that's a huge hit to their bottom line. Tech analyst Carmi Levy, great to have you here this morning. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne-Marie.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.